Alright, hey guys, today I'm going to just do another tutorial to extend upon the concepts which were put forward in my other tutorial, which was animating using path constraints in 3ds Max. So basically I'm doing this tutorial for two reasons. The first one is that in my first tutorial you couldn't actually hear me, which was a big problem if you didn't have any decent speakers. And the second reason is because in that tutorial I didn't really go as far as I would have wanted to, so today I'm just going to take the original concept and just expand it a little bit further. So, what we're going to do basically first is just recap what I did in the other tutorial for anyone who couldn't hear me, which is fair and reasonable if you couldn't. So basically what we're going to do is we're going to get an object of our choice, and because of my creativity it's going to be a box, to move along a line, which will be, which will be a path, or this little spline. So basically the reason which it's really cool to get objects to move along lines is because it simplifies the whole animation process just a lot. Because otherwise, you know, you have to go fiddling around with auto key and saying, okay, I want to start here and then I want to move it here and here and here. But with this, you can basically 3 clicks and you can get the box to move along in a very smooth, fluid motion along the path. So to start with, we're just going to smooth our line by going into the line modifier, this thing called interpolation here, and clicking adaptive. And that's really cool because that means that it'll put the right polygons in depending on how big the line is, etc, etc. I'm not really sure how it works, but it's good to just quickly smooth it. So now what we've got is we've got a smooth line here, and we're going to get our box to move along it. So we go to the motion rollout, and then expand assign controller, click position because we're affecting the object's position, obviously. Then go to assign controller, which has got the little question mark right here. Alright, so just click that, click path constraint, and basically a path is any line which the object can move across. Can be anything, can be a circle, rectangle, whatever you can create in the shapes in the spline section of this create area. But in our case it's going to be a line which we've made. So now we do that, we go to path parameters, add path, click our path right here, and it is done. So now we can see, well, I'll just rotate a bit so it's a bit easier. We can now see that our box is automatically mapped to our path, and as we scrub the timeline across, the box will follow the path quite easily. Now, it's worth mentioning at this point that you don't just have to assign it to one path. You can go back, make a second line. So this line's going to follow pretty much the opposite path that this one has. And now we can then, if we want to follow 2 lines sort of thing, well, not strictly 2 lines, but we can go back to our little box, motion, add path, just click the second path, and now what happens is that the box moves along. It doesn't follow either line, instead it follows an average of the 2 lines. So it takes the position of where it should be on the first line, position where it should be on the second line, just basically makes an average of that, I think. So now when you scrub across, it moves along roughly the middle of where it should be on either of the 2 lines, which is kind of cool if you need to use it for any purpose like that. So yeah, that's kind of cool. And the reason, one of the other things that the 3ds Max does that's quite good, I'm just going to delete this second path because we don't need it. One of the other things that 3ds Max does that's quite good is that it'll automatically assign keyframes to the start and end position of the box on the line. So if we look at our timeline here, we'll notice that on the first frame, our box is at position 0 on the, or 0% on the line, and on our last frame, our box is at position 100 or 100% across the line. So 3ds Max does this automatically. I guess it saves you time and stuff, but if you want to edit this manually, it's easy enough to do by yourself. So let's just say we want to go to the middle of our animation, which is in this case frame 50, and we want to instead have it be 3/4 of the way across the line at this point. So we just go auto key, and then we just so auto key, it'll automatically assign a keyframe to any change we make. So now we go to path options, percentage along path, and we change 50 to 75 or something, and there you go. So now turn that off. Along the first 50 frames it'll go 3/4 along the path, and then on the second 50 frames it'll go 1/4 along the path, and you can see it moves a lot slower and all that sort of thing. So it does a lot of the stuff automatically for us, which is quite cool. But if you notice here, our box is moving along the path, but it's not rotating in relation to it. So if you want to fix that, it's pretty simple. Just click here, which is called follow. And now it does it automatically. So it's good. It's a good time saver, fixes up some things, lets you do a bit more complex animations a bit easier, which I think is kind of cool. So now we've done that, it's fine and well, but let's say you want to animate something like a snake, and a snake doesn't just follow a path along the line, it also bends to it. So you need something similar to the process I just described, but using a path constraint is actually useless for a snake. So we're going to make our snake, which for time reasons is going to be a cylinder, and we're going to make it move along another path. So just, you know, regular sort of thing, line. Okay, ours is going to be curved a bit more fancily this time. Alright, there we go. So I'd just like to point another quick little tip with 3ds Max. If you notice here, our gizmo for transforming the position of the cylinder is at the moment at the bottom of the cylinder instead of in the middle. Now you can change this, in the case of creating a cylinder, you can change it in 2 places. I think there's one, well, I thought there was something here. There may be something in here to change it. I don't think there is. But the easiest way to change the position of this gizmo is to go to hierarchy. So, go to the hierarchy rollout, and then go to adjust pivot, move, rotate, and scale. So we click effect pivot only, which means that we can now move around our pivot like we would our object. So now we're just going to go to center to object, which means it'll put it in the middle of our affected object. We uncheck that, and now you'll notice the gizmo is in the middle. That's quite useful if you need, for instance, to maybe animate some gear coming out of an aircraft. You'll notice that it hinges from a particular point, and you can just use this technique to easily, you know, edit the gizmo so it's in the right spot. And I think you can also rotate it and stuff. But, yeah, we'll just put that back in the middle. So now I'm just going to rotate the cylinder so it's parallel to the horizon. I think that'll do. Yep, doesn't really matter too much in our case. So now instead of going to the motion rollout, we're going to go to our modify panel. So we're going to go to our modify list and click Path Deform World Space Modify. That's what the WSM means there. Alright, so now this modifier will basically edit the mesh of the cylinder to match our path as closely as it can. So now we go to basically pick path, click our line here, and then you'll notice that the cylinder has changed position over here. That's not what we want, so just press move to path and it will map it directly to the line. As you can see here, you may not notice it, but the cylinder is now slightly curved. If we change percentage along path here, you'll now notice that the cylinder follows it exactly, which is very good if you want to create things such as maybe a pipe quite easily, or a snake. So if you're going to make like a tube or something, instead of making the cylinder and then rotating bits of it, you could just make a path, make a tube, make a cylinder, and then just map it to it with a path deform WSM modifier, and that could fix your problem quite easily. Which is also another important thing to mention, is that you can actually stretch your object across the path using this stretch parameter here. So I'm just going to expand that and just move percentage along a bit. Continue to stretch, and yeah, you can see now that the object is stretched a bit further along the path. Now it's important to notice here that it looks like crap. The reason is